What's good, bro?
Yo, yo, yo.
What is
we
up?
actually made it happen.
Oh, Tuesday night. We're live too. I liked the recording, but it's probably easier to record when it's just me. It's a lot nicer to be live. A lot easier to be live when I'm not just fucking talking to myself, you know?
I hear
Well,
that.
how was the weekend? Where'd you watch the games at?
So I was at home, very hungover
Yeah.
from Saturday night, but that's perfect for football Sundays. Overall, betting wise, was
Oh,
was
yeah.
feeling decent after the 12 o'clock games, and then let me tell you, it was a straight fucking monsoon after that. Terrible.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. There were a few results that surprised me a little bit throughout the week one, which obviously we'll go over here. But I'm sunburned to shit, dude. I can't move. I went out and chilled, drank on a patio for like 5 hours. I watched the whole first games, like first half of the second games, and got home and took a nap, and had to peel myself off the fucking couch. My skin was just like falling off, dude. I'm too damn pale to be out there like that and tank tops and shit. But yeah, so I guess before we get into all the Sunday games, I know I did a little bit of a recap of the Chiefs week one, but I really haven't talked to you about the game since it happened back on Thursday. So what do you think? How'd we look out there?
Well, I had to rewatch it. I don't remember much past the first quarter. I was there.
Oh yeah,
Um,
you were.
Don't remember much past the first quarter, I'll tell you that much. But rewatch the game. I think the goal going into the game, and we even talked about it, was you wanted to see just a more up and down, let's get it every quarter and not just
Yeah.
have 8 minutes where we score 3 touchdowns. And they did that. And I think Clyde really helped that out. Just him being able to get 4 or 5 yards on the ground was just something that we couldn't do last year.
Right.
And it really put us in situations where Patty's either making a 35-yard bomb and, we pick up that yardage, or we're going 3 and out. And
Right.
so I think we were able to give him the ball and kind of just eat some clock, eat some time, keep the defense guessing. And yeah, overall, it was just a good game.
Hell yeah. I agree. Like I said, I mean, I think that's what was cool, and I think we mentioned it in previous podcasts about the Chiefs just have an offense that's kind of unguardable, and they can beat you in so many ways. And I think we saw that a lot on Thursday night. I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, NFL's leading rusher, by the way, through 1 week, 138 yards on 25 carries. I mean, that's something we really probably haven't seen that since Kareem Hunt, a running back who can take the workload like that. I mean, Damian Williams is a solid back, but he was never getting the carries, the touches like that. And I think another thing, as far as just seeing what Hilaire is going to be able to do, I know one of his strengths in college was being a guy who can catch passes out of the backfield and be a guy in the passing game. And I don't know, I think he either had like 2 targets or no targets. I don't know if he had any targets. So, that's going to be another aspect of his game that we haven't seen yet that hopefully makes him better.
Yeah, man, Sammy Watkins, another good
hell of a game for him.
First game of the season.
Yeah.
I did like how they played. I thought Demarcus Robinson saw the field a lot, and I mean, we talked about it for a while, the McCole Hardman factor. Like, he had that one catch and just didn't really see much from him. I don't know percentage-wise how much he was still on the field, but I think this game too, like, when you're up in this type of game, I mean, it was 17-7 going into the second half.
Yeah.
Like, Andy Reid doesn't need to show anything at that point.
Right.
Like, let's just play football, make your defense step up, and let's leave the rest for the rest of the season or games that we need it. So
Absolutely.
I'm not going to put too much on McCole Hardman. I think he had 6 yards. Tyreek Hill only had 46 yards. Like,
I was going to say, and I think in their defense,
Patrick only had 211.
Right. And I think in their defense, I think the Texans really were trying to take that aspect away, that deep threat. They obviously covered Tyreek Hill. They tried to lock him down as much as they could, and I think Mecole Hardman just kind of falls into that, being the same kind of type of receiver that Tyreek Hill is. Obviously, they're not the same person. They've got their own skill sets and everything, but I think that kind of, as far as the type of offense you saw from the Chiefs, I mean, it was a lot of running. That was the first time since Mahomes has started a game for the Chiefs that they've run more than they passed. So I think the Chiefs just did what they knew they had to do as far as counteracting the Texans' defensive scheme to win the game, and that's what they did. They got the ball to the big receivers like Sammy Watkins, like Travis Kelsey. They ran the ball a lot. I mean, there were a lot of plays where Mahomes checked into runs, and that's something you want to see out of your quarterback, obviously, but it's something that I think, like I said, I think the Chiefs are just gonna be able to beat any team anyway this year, and I think that I think it looked good for him. But as far
Yeah.
as week one, I guess kind of our theme of this podcast is going to be just these week one is the best time for overreactions in the NFL. We all know that, and it's easy to jump to conclusions and laugh at ourselves a few weeks later. But as far as the week one, Chiefs 34, Texans 20, you think that says more about the Chiefs or the Texans?
Ooh. Just looking at the score, I think it says more about the Texans, but if you watch the game, I think it says more about the Chiefs.
I feel you.
And
Um,
I say that just because of how we played. We won that game in a way that we haven't won a game since, like you said, Kareem Hunt was here.
right.
So if you watched it, I think it showed more that we're even better than we were
Absolutely.
offensively and defensively. And then if you're just looking at the score, I mean, the Texans, it felt like they had opportunities. It felt like they weren't stalled out, but they just really couldn't get it done. I'm happy David Johnson had somewhat of a day, though. I mean,
Yeah.
it's good to see him back and healthy.
I mean, and I think some of it, I think it can be said that it says a lot about the Chiefs' defense. I mean, the Chiefs' defense pressured Deshaun Watson on over 60% of his snaps on Thursday night. I mean, I think I saw a stat: the Chiefs' defense accounted for about 10% of the total pressures of every game in Week One. I mean, to get to the quarterback like that, it doesn't matter what weapons you've got. It doesn't matter what your talent is. If you can't get the ball out, if your receivers can't run routes and get open by the time you're getting sacked, there's not a whole lot you're going to be able to do. So I think the Chiefs defense looked really good as well, and a lot of guys stepped up. If we want to talk about rookies, we can talk about L'Jarius Sneed with that pick. I mean, the Texans were looking at him a lot, and I think he only allowed like 2 receptions, 19 yards. Obviously, had that pick. Wasn't a super difficult pick, let's be honest, but a pick all the same, and that's a great sign, especially with who was it, Charvarius Ward, broken hand. I know he's having surgery, so I don't know as far as the length of time he's going to be out, but that definitely helps having a rookie come in and play that well off rip.
Yeah, we talked about it too. I don't know how all of this aligned with what I was saying and what I was wanting, but it did. Like
Yeah.
the Sammy Watkins, like being that guy, like that happened. Dorian O'Daniel, like he got time, and we talked about him a lot. Like he was somebody that I thought that they were going to show a lot more
Yeah, and you were
in
right.
the
I was wrong on
playoffs.
that one. I was big on Willie Gay Jr. and I think he had one tackle in the game. I don't know how many snaps he played, but definitely didn't see as much of Willie Gay as I thought we would, given the play of the linebackers over the last couple of seasons. Dorian O'Daniel, I think, is a guy. Reggie Ragland, obviously not with the team any longer, but Anthony Hitchens still. Hopefully, we'll see Willie Gay a little bit more as the season progresses. But as far as rookie performances between Clyde Edwards-Helaire, L'Jarius Sneed, and the old punter Tommy Townsend too, gotta love it. Gotta love the rookie contributions on top of all that. But anyways, as far as other games go, I guess Seahawks-Falcons. Seahawks win 38-25. The Falcons put up more points than I thought. Obviously, it's kind of one of those things where, the Falcons are. I don't know what to think about the Falcons. I mean,
Defensively, they just couldn't stop the Seahawks. I mean,
right,
they just did not have an answer. They actually played a decent game. Matt Ryan threw it 54 times. It had
right.
450 yards. I think they'll be in contention for a playoff run this year. I don't think that they played horribly, but that defense obviously has some work. But when you talk about the Seahawks, they look like one of the best teams in the NFL.
I
I
agree.
think
I agree.
as far as standout performances, they just look like they couldn't be stopped.
Right.
So,
Well, the
and
Seahawks
obvi-
offense putting up 38 points, in my opinion, is what's big because the Seahawks, I feel like, are a team where their offense is basically, for the most part, Russell Wilson just putting the team on their back and having to do whatever he can to win. Not a whole lot of weapons around him. So for them to do that, I mean, Russell Wilson, 322 yards, 4 touchdowns himself on 31 of 35. I mean, that's a hell of a game for him. And Carlos Hyde out there in Seattle now, Chris Carson running. So get more guys like that in there. And yeah, Seahawks are looking good over on that NFC side. I
yeah,
would say it says more about the Seahawks for sure in this game. I think they're a very solid team, and I think they're going to be they're going to be right in there as far as NFC Championship Super Bowl contenders go.
yeah, 31 for 35 for Russell Wilson too. That's insane.
Right.
They didn't even really put the ball on the ground that much either. So, DK Metcalf actually had like a huge drop that could have gave him an extra 7. But
DK Metcalf, yeah, a guy who came on real strong at the end of last year. I picked him up in fantasy about midway through the season. He had some strong games, so I think that's going to be a guy who, yeah, as far as Russell Wilson getting weapons, he's going to be a guy who will hopefully really help out. So, yeah, Seahawks looking strong. Jets Bills 27-17. The Bills take it over the Jets. My thing, I watched a lot of this game. I think I ended up like going to sleep one night over the weekend and just kind of watching the full Jets Bills replay. And I think the Bills obviously look really strong, and they were a team that was good last year. And I think they're a team that is very capable of winning this AFC East. But Josh Allen with the turnovers, he has got to figure that out. He had 33 for 46, 312 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then 14 carries, 57 yards, and another touchdown on the ground. But he also had at least 2 fumbles lost. And things like that, you're playing the Jets. You're playing one of the worst teams in the NFL. Whenever you're playing, when you're playing bigger teams, better teams, you're losing the ball multiple turnovers a game. It's not going to go as well for you. It's only a 10-point win.
yeah, this game is a lot closer if the Jets are even slightly better.
Yeah.
I watched a lot of this game as well. Josh Allen did look really good, and kind of a guy that can do it all, but he's not really looked at a guy that can do it all. Yeah, he had those 2 fumbles, and they were both hits that he honestly just shouldn't have taken. But he was kind of feeling himself. I believe the first touchdown of the game was a rushing touchdown by him, so probably feeling himself a little bit. Not really much to say about this game, just because it's the Jets. But yeah, the Bills had this one the whole way.
Right.
Le'Veon Bell got injured. I think it's like a hamstring injury or something. So when you're talking about fantasy, that's a guy that is questionable going in next week.
Yeah.
He also had a terrible fucking day.
Yeah,
So
6 carries, 14 yards. I mean, can we talk about Frank Gore? 6 carries, 24 yards in the game. I mean, my God, that guy's been playing in the NFL since we were born. This guy just ageless. And running back is one of the positions where you see the least amount of, I guess, career longevity. For Frank Gore to still be going is pretty incredible. So props to him. Too bad he's on the Jets. I mean, too bad he's been on shitty teams the last like 17 years too. So
yeah, I think he was on the Bills before I think back when they had Tyrod, I believe.
yeah, so in my opinion, I think this game says more about the Jets. I think the Bills are a solid team and a little bit sloppy on the offensive side for them, but I think the Jets they looked really bad, and I think the first 3 or 4 possessions for them were just 3 and outs. I mean, I think they were 3 straight 3 and outs to start the game. I think the Jets are probably one of the worst teams in the league, and it's not looking good for them this season. I feel bad for Sam Darnold because I was watching, like I said, I watched more of this game than probably any game other than the Chiefs game this week. And Sam Darnold makes plays, man. Like Sam Darnold was just getting eaten up by that offensive line all game. It seemed like he was getting just murdered, and he was still making plays. He 215 yards, 21 for 35. When you lose your running back who they paid all this money for and all that, it's decent when you got the talent around him that he does. But I think the Jets are going to be one of the worst teams in the league, unfortunately.
I would agree.
Let's see, as far as the next game, what's the next game up?
Bears and Lions.
Bears Lions, right? Bears 27, Lions 23. Very easily could have went the other way. I don't remember the guy's name, but I was watching this live at the bar, and I mean the easiest drop touchdown you'll ever see that should have won the game for Denver. And the Bears hang on and squeak by. Mitch Trubisky with the start, who I was just hammering the week before the season started. Trubisky threw 3 touchdowns in the fourth. I mean, it was a solid performance for him. Good for him. 20 for 36, 242 yards in the game. David Montgomery, 64 yards on the ground. But I don't know. I think this game says probably more about the Lions, in my opinion, because Lions are always going to do Lion things and find ways to lose. Because, I mean, that was a game where obviously Chicago or Detroit had the lead going into the fourth quarter. They were up 23-6 in the last quarter and are held scoreless. Bears come back.
Yeah, Bears 21 points in the fourth quarter. It was crazy. I watched a lot of this game as well, just with like red zone on. DeAndre Swift was the guy that dropped the wide open touchdown pass. Perfect
Okay.
ball by
Yeah.
Stafford too.
Great pass.
Should should have been in there. The one thing the Lions just shit the bed on this one is every touchdown that the Bears had was just like it was just a guy like by him, wide receiver by himself. Just like they would march down to the red zone, and then Trubisky would just find this wide open receiver, and the guy would just walk into the end zone. I mean, it happened I think twice in the fourth quarter that it was just like a 20-yard play that there was no Lion around. and lost some money on this game, so that hurt a little bit more. I did have the Lions kind of being a team that hopefully maybe in the next year or two they'll be decent, but
Yeah.
who knows? I think this says more about the Bears just because they don't. This isn't a team that comes back and wins this type of game. They don't have Trubisky isn't that type of quarterback, first off. They didn't have any like huge plays that I think set them apart. It's not like Anthony Miller had some crazy, dodged a few tackles and made it to the end zone. Like nothing really happened for them. It was just Trubisky finding the right guys. So I'll give the Bears this one, starting 1-0. It should have been 0-1. They find a way to win against probably a bad team this year. So
I'll respectfully disagree on that one just solely for the fact you bring up Mitch Trubisky finding wide open guys in the end zone. I mean, that's progress for Trubisky. I mean, if you remember, what was the screenshot last year of Mitch Trubisky standing on like the 15-yard line with the ball, and there's a Bears tight end just sitting in the end zone. Nobody even like in between them. Like the whole from them to the end zone, not a single player, and Mitch Trubisky throws an incomplete pass. I mean, so hey, it's progress for Trubisky. At least he's like hitting open receivers in the end zone.
Last thing about the game, I don't know why teams still do this, but Cordell Patterson is still playing, never gets thrown to. They do the same like toss or the same handoff to him in the backfield, try to run up the field. Teams have been doing this with him for the past like 8 years, I feel like, and it doesn't fucking work. And they did it like 3 times. He had 19 rushing yards, 4 carries. Not bad, but like I don't know. I just don't understand the dynamic behind it. It seems like a wasted play to me in my head. Like maybe try it once, but like the fact that teams are still picking him up to do the same shit is just like it bothers me.
I feel like Cordell Patterson like had 3 great plays 5 years ago in Minnesota, and just he's gotten 7 jobs because of it. And you're right. It's like a Dexter McCluster way back in the day. Like you just try and force these gadget plays and stuff on this guy, and they don't work, and you don't put him in your normal offense. Like, what's the point? I mean, I hope they're not paying him much because he's not worth he's not worth his production.
I mean, you saw Anthony Miller, like he's obviously a really fast wide receiver. They have Allen Robinson too. Like, why don't you try some little trick play to them that can create some space, or that can create, maybe if they find one hole, they can pick up 10, 12 yards, or maybe even break it. Who knows? But you give it to Cordell Patterson, who is a big guy. He was fast at one point in his career. I doubt he's fast at all anymore. Like, it just blows my mind. I saw him run the ball like 3 times, and I was like, "What the fuck?"
And it's probably all fucking end arounds, and just
exactly. It's
shit,
the same fucking play,
and that's the problem with a player like Cordell Patterson is that when he comes in the game, it's going to be something where it's some gadget reverse, something like that to him, and that's the effect that like I said, as far as bringing the Chiefs into this example, it started with Dexter McCluster, I feel like in 2010, and then you bring in DeAnthony Thomas, and you finally get Tyreek Hill. What's made Tyreek Hill so much better than those other two is that Tyreek Hill's a complete receiver. You put Tyreek Hill on the field. Do you remember his rookie year? He was lining up at tailback. He was taking handoffs. He was taking those reverses and stuff, returning kicks. But he's built his route tree. He's become a better player all around, and now he's become one of the best receivers in the NFL. If you've only got that one specialty, teams are going to know that. It's 2020. Teams know what to look for. They've got the film on people. They know what's going to happen when a guy like Cordell Patterson comes in the game. It's one of 3 things, and it's been shut down since like 2014 now. So as far as top teams in the NFC, Green Bay with a strong showing over Minnesota on Sunday. I watched this one. This was one of the games that was on at the bar that I was at, so I watched basically this whole game. Rodgers, 32 for 44, 364, and 4 touchdowns. Hell of a game for Green Bay. Minnesota, obviously not a bad offense either, putting up 34. I don't know if that says more about the Vikings offense or the Packers defense. I think the Vikings have a solid offense. You still got Dalvin Cook. You still got Adam Thielen. Kyle Rudolph over there. Vikings have a solid offense. I think this says more about the Packers. I think the Packers are 100% capable of going back to that NFC championship that they were in last year. I think they're a solid team. And Aaron Rodgers, with that added motivation, the Packers take a quarterback in round 1. That's going to Aaron Rodgers, I think, is a guy who takes a lot of pride. And I think with the animosity over the last few years in that organization, I think Aaron Rodgers would love to maybe, stick it to the Packers, have a great season, and say fuck you after it and go on somewhere else. And
I wish you would. I wish you would.
if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to the Bears and the Vikings too. Like if I'm trying to play Green Bay twice a year if I'm Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I know it was only a 9-point game, but that's just the Vikings in general. Like their offense is so good, and Kirk Cousins finds continuously just will find big plays no matter what the score is. So yeah, on paper it looks a lot closer than what it was if you were watching it. Green Bay had this one in the bag. Yeah, Devontae Adams, best wide receiver, fucking has the biggest day out of, I think he topped every wide receiver. He was number one. So yeah, this I think this does. I would agree with you. I think this speaks more on the Packers. That they kind of, I mean, I still think people forget that, and even I forget it sometimes, that Green Bay still went 13-3 last season. Like they
Right.
were still one of the best teams, if not the best team in the NFC last year,
Yeah.
right there with the 49ers. So it's not like them winning this game, and how they did it is like, I think people are blowing it up to be this huge thing, and rightfully so. Like they deserve all the credit that they should get off of this win.
Right.
But
I agree with you. I
um,
think I think it's very late, but I think this is one of those wins where a team that's coming off an NFC Championship appearance, a team that was 13-3 last year, and that goes out and Aaron Rodgers has a big day like he did. I think people are finally starting to look at Green Bay like that, like they should have done for all of last year. I mean, I'll be honest, I was one of those people who thought that Green Bay was overlooked last year. I mean, I overlooked Green Bay last year, I guess is what I'm trying to say, until they were in the NFC Championship game. And it was probably literally like we're sitting at the watch party from the Chiefs. The Chiefs win, they're going to the Super Bowl, and we're like, all right, now who's it going to be, 49ers or Packers? And the fucking pregame comes up, and it's like, oh, the Packers were 13-3? Like, really? Like, oh, okay, that's dope. But yeah, Aaron Rodgers looks strong. That team looks strong. And I think that the Packers are definitely, like you said, I mean, that NFC is so top heavy. The AFC is a little top heavy too as far as Chiefs Ravens, but the NFC, there's so many teams right at the top that can really have a shot. And the Packers proved on Sunday, I think, that they're one of them. As far as the next game, this was one of the games, I guess, one of my top 3 games I wanted to see, and I watched a lot of this one at the bar as well. Patriots 21, Dolphins 11. Cam Newton in his first game with New England, 2 rushing touchdowns, 76 yards on the ground. He was what? Is that 15 for 19, 155 yards. Not too bad for him. Leading rusher on the team, it looks like, as well. So Fitzpatrick, 0 touchdowns, 3 picks. I think obviously every week the Dolphins lose. It's just going to be waiting to see Tua. I know the Dolphins coach already confirmed Fitzpatrick will start week 2. But that's what I'm waiting for as far as the Dolphins. That's just what I want to see, is just a Tua.
yeah, I don't know if he'll end up getting the start this year or not. I don't know why they thought that. I mean, we already know what Fitzpatrick is, and maybe the last game of the season last year, that's why they decided to trot him out there again. Or was that the last game that they played the Patriots and beat them?
Yeah, week
Last game of the
17.
season? Okay. Yeah, so I don't know why they trotted him out there. Maybe they do want to sit Tua. I would actually prefer, if I was a Dolphins fan, to sit Tua. I mean, that team is bad up and
Right, with the
down.
talent around
They've
him.
traded away every good player, rightfully so, but they lost pretty much everybody on defense. They've lost the few guys that they had at the rushing core in the past 3 years. Everybody's hyping this game up. Everybody's Patriots are back, blah, blah, blah. It was 7-3 going into the fucking second half. Cam Newton threw for 155 yards. Like, I don't understand everybody's like hype behind this Patriots team. And then I think there'll be a team that is in contention for the playoffs and will probably make the playoffs, especially with that extra wild card spot. But this is no game for the Patriots to be like holding their hat, like to be
Right.
on this fucking high horse that they're back or like they're gonna be this
No,
spectacular thing.
100%. I mean,
They played the
week one
fucking.
or
If this was against a good AFC team like the Bills or something, okay,
right.
you know, let's sip some champagne after your win or whatever. Let's go to week 2. But like, you played the fucking Dolphins. Like,
Yeah. No, I agree. I
let's
mean,
relax.
and if you remember last year, week 1 or 2, the Patriots put like 58 on the Dolphins with Tom Brady aging, and we'll talk about Tom Brady's Sunday as well. But yeah, it's definitely not the showing. I don't know what I guess I expected from the Patriots. I was very excited to see Cam Newton out there, and I think I think he looked good overall. I think as far as his health, to have that 75 carries, that 75 yards on the ground with the 2 touchdowns, I think as long as he is healthy and has that part of his game, that's going to be a huge factor for the Patriots and a switch up of their offense, obviously, compared to the last 20 years, because Tom Brady runs like a 6'5" 40. Um, I think that in a lot of these games, I think a lot of these games are a little lower scoring than I expected. There were a few, higher scoring, but I think the Patriots looked good, and I think that it's something that they'll be able to build off of. Like you said, I think it didn't quite live up to the hype as far as a lot of people thought with Cam Newton coming in there, but I don't know what people expected. I mean, as far as Cam Newton, he hadn't played in
I
probably a
mean,
year
I
and a
mean,
half either.
I think it did live up to the hype, but it's people are just like over quantifying the hype. And
Right.
I would agree with you. I was excited to see Cam out there. My hatred for the Patriots was pretty dull because I was like, whatever,
I was
it's a
rooting
whole
for him.
completely
Yeah.
different team. They'll be fun to watch. And then the fans and the media after the game just kind of ruined it for me.
Yeah.
Now I'm back on this train of like, fuck the Patriots. Like, they
Yeah.
suck. But yeah, I do agree with you. It is something that they can build off of. And it's definitely like an overreaction by me to be like, oh, you beat the Dolphins 21-11 and you only scored 7 points in the first half. But that's just where I'm at with it.
Yeah.
And watching the game too and seeing, them play, it was Cam Newton wasn't finding anything through the air, and
Right.
the Dolphins being so bad were just letting him, get 5 yards, 6 yards on the ground. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree with you. I really don't know who this game says more about, honestly, because I mean, I think these two teams are kind of who we think they are, as far as you and me. The Dolphins are not a great team. They're obviously in a rebuilding process. They've got their quarterback, ideally of the future, sitting behind Ryan Fitzpatrick. But the Patriots, I think they're right where we thought they were too. I mean, they're a lot better with Cam Newton than they would have been with Stidham. I mean, Stidham was inactive. Hoyer's the backup quarterback who's active on the sidelines. So, what does that say about Ryan Stidham? I know a lot of people seem to be really high on him, and he's inactive now. So what? I don't know what that says about Stidham or about the Patriots, but yeah, I think the Patriots are, depending on how the Bills do, they're a wild card team. They're a team that can win 8 to 12. I mean, 12 is high. 12 is really high. Excuse me, but they're a team that can make
who?
the playoffs for sure. Yeah, I think that
Who?
the
Patriots?
Patriots, yeah, 12's high. They're not going to win 12, but they're a team that's capable of making the playoffs for sure. That's the thing, though. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is that the Patriots aren't an AFC Championship, a Super Bowl contender every year now, and that's a little different. But like you said, I think that it's weird watching the Patriots and rooting for him because I was like genuinely rooting for Cam Newton, and it's a hard situation as a Chiefs fan who's gotten a lot of bad memories through the Patriots over the years.
Yeah, I do think that if I didn't see so much on Twitter and everything else, I probably wouldn't have feel so strongly about this, and I would have said, "Oh yeah, no, it's nice. He went 15 for 19. It's not like he was, he went 10 for 20 or something." But
Right,
yeah, I mean, this obviously says more about the Patriots. The Dolphins are the Dolphins, and
right.
it's
Yeah,
nobody thought that they were winning this game anyway.
yeah, I
Whether
agree.
whether whether Cam was there or not, nobody still would have picked the Dolphins to win.
Honestly, I mean, my biggest hype of the Patriots might have been just Cam Newton's fit walking into the game. I'm pretty sure I shared his fit, and I was like, Pat's by 40. I don't know. I'm big on all that. I love Cam Newton fucking going out there and being outlandish and doing shit like that, and that's why I like to see it on the Patriots because like I feel like Cam Newton as a quarterback and Bill Belichick as a coach are two just polar opposite personalities, and that's what I think is cool. The fact that that's working so far, and hopefully that continues to work because seemed like there was a lot of, speaking of animosity, between Brady and Belichick over those last few years. There was definitely some disagreements and some hard feelings maybe as they left, and you're never going to see that publicly, but it sure seemed like it. So it was cool to see Cam Newton out there doing his thing with the Patriots, and we'll see how they do this year. But one of the more surprising results of the week, and one of my favorite results of the week, the Eagles lose to the Washington football team 27-17 after leading at halftime. I mean,
Shout out
just
Wilman.
yeah, sorry, Devin. Rough game for your boys out there, but Washington football team improves to 1-0. Haskins was 17 for 31, 178 yards, 1 touchdown. So nothing eye-popping from him, but it was enough.
Yeah, Carson Wentz came out the gate, was looking decent, looked like he was kind of back in form. I know he's been on and off injuries since the Super Bowl and or I guess I should say not the Super Bowl, but that season leading up to the Super Bowl.
Right, right.
Um, but yeah, he looked good, and then he just fell straight on his face. He had those 2 picks, and they just literally could not get anything going. Um, I don't think Washington is a good team, even though they did beat them. But the Eagles just can't lose that game.
Yeah.
It was 17-0, and I believe Washington scored that touchdown like in garbage time of the second quarter,
Yeah.
which got him to 17-7. And yeah, like I said, Carson Wentz just literally could not do anything. And I don't really even put much on Philadelphia's defense either. I just don't think that it was kind of like the Chiefs, like they just couldn't get a first down. Like the defense just
Yeah.
continuously was trotting back out on the field. And like you said, Haskins went 17 for 31. So it's not like he was out
Right.
there
Not even 200
throwing
yards.
fucking
Yeah.
dimes.
Yeah,
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 like it's
100%.
not
I
like
mean,
that.
and you look at their rushing too. I mean,
yards, it
yeah,
was
80
nothing.
yards total rushing too. It's not like they went out there and just manhandled the Eagles and put up these crazy offensive stats. It was, yeah, that's why I think, in my opinion, I think this game 100% says more about the Eagles, and I think it's a consistency thing. You know, they did make the playoffs last year. Carson Wentz stayed healthy in the regular season last year. A lot of guys around him didn't, but the Eagles, I feel like, struggle with consistency, and that's something that, you know, you're up 17-0 at half, you feel like you're cruising, and you're shut out the second half, and Washington almost puts up 30 on you in two quarters. You know, that's Washington's not a good football team, and that's something that's, I think, really concerning for the Eagles as far as
But they are a football team.
they are, in fact, yeah, that is their name. They are the football team. Yeah, I think
America's favorite.
Yeah, that's what they should have done. They should have been Washington America's team just to piss off Jerry Jones. That would have been pretty good.
They did start to get pressure on Wentz, and I believe that's when he threw his two picks. So I guess you could shout out to them. Shout out to them on that. I do think maybe I'm not going to look too much into this. It doesn't mean that like I'm not going to bet on the Eagles by any means moving forward until they show me something. But I also do wonder if maybe this was a game that was just hard to get up for. You know, you're playing the Washington football team and a guy in Dwayne Haskins who was a was he a rookie quarterback last year or was
Yeah.
he second? Yeah. You know, a guy that didn't really show much last year, and maybe there just wasn't much to get up for this game. You're 17-7 going into the second half. I don't know how much you buy into that or anybody else buys into that, but that would be my only excuse for
Yeah.
them if they do, you know, maybe rattle off 2 wins after this or
Yeah,
something.
I think as far as that, I think that falls on coaching though. I mean, as a head coach in the NFL, like NFL's any given Sunday. Like this is a perfect example as far as this result. Any team can beat any team on any given Sunday, and you got to have your team ready to play games like that, especially in a division like that one with the Cowboys that you're going to be competing with a team down the stretch, and you got to make sure you win the games you're supposed to win, and that's something that they didn't do, and I think that says. And I'm not saying that's going to be a thing all season for the Eagles. It's Overreaction Monday, so you know, Overreaction Tuesday, I guess now, whatever it is. But you know, I think that the Eagles, hopefully, it's a lesson to be learned that they need to be ready for every game because you can't just come out there thinking you're going to beat teams because it doesn't happen. Next is the Raiders coming out over the Panthers. This was a pretty good game. I didn't really see it because I was over at the bar. I was watching updates and stuff on it, but Raiders end up coming out with the win, 34-30. It was really back and forth throughout the last quarter. This was the Josh Jacobs game, 25 carries, 93 yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground. McCaffrey had himself a game too, 96 yards and 2 touchdowns. But Teddy
Very similar
Bridgewater didn't
stats.
look too bad, 22 for 34, 270 yards and a touchdown. Solid start for him. Like I said, I think the Panthers are a pretty good team. Robbie Anderson with 115 yards, but it's just going to be an issue where the Panthers are in such a stacked division that it's going to be hard to win with the Saints and the Bucks.
Yeah, their defense just couldn't keep up. Watched majority of this game, put a bunch of money on the Panthers, obviously, and then lost that. But man, I know you say Teddy Bridgewater didn't look that bad, but and he didn't. I mean, looking at the stats, it's not like he played terrible, but he could not. I mean, he just couldn't find anybody. You
Really?
know, like he literally couldn't put a 12-yard pass, you know, down the field. Like and it wasn't. It's not like he was missing by any means. He just couldn't do it. You know, there was just nothing there. And I don't know if that speaks more on him or Vegas receivers who or defense. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, Josh Jacobs was just running up and down on them. Obviously, you know, a guy like Christian McCaffrey is going to get his because they their offense is built around Christian McCaffrey getting his. But the Raiders, I mean, I think the argument against them, they're not really building around Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs was just a guy that's just a phenomenal player. I mean, Henry Ruggs out there, you got Darren Waller, you got Nelson Aguilar. Like they're playing a full offense here,
Right.
whereas Carolina isn't. That offense is ran by McCaffrey. Um, so yeah, I think there was like a 4th and 1 or a 3rd and 1 too, where they gave it to the fullback, I believe Carolina did, and he
Oh,
fumbled it
Jesus.
or
Yeah.
something like that. I'm like,
It's
man, you
2020.
got.
Get fullbacks out of football, man. It's
I, I
2020.
I mean, you just have. I understand it if you're the Chiefs last year, like give it give it to the fullback, let him try to get a yard or something because you don't really have the backfield to do that. But
Yeah.
you got the best running back on your team, like
Right.
you need
Right.
to give it to him
Right.
and
Christian
and let
McCaffrey.
him get that.
If you
But
don't trust him to get you 1 yard, I don't know what you're doing because, yeah, he's one of the best in football for sure. I think this game says more about the Raiders. I honestly, as a Chiefs fan, can't stand the Raiders, but I think the Raiders have a lot of talent on that roster, and they've got a lot of young guys too. And I think the team, and don't get me wrong, Derek Carr didn't have a bad game by any means, 22 for 30, 239 yards and a touchdown. But I think this team is going to be limited a lot by quarterback play, and Derek Carr is one of those guys who's been inconsistent over the years and who has struggled. I think he's gotten, I wouldn't say significantly worse at time, but when he came in and he was a rookie, he was one of those guys. As a Chiefs fan, I was jealous because we were still. I mean, we had Alex Smith at the time, but it was a guy like this guy. This team drafted a quarterback who's coming out there and having success, but I feel like he really hasn't built on that. He hasn't improved, and he's honestly gotten slightly worse over the last few years. And it's gotten to a point where they bring in Mariota to have that competition at least. And don't get me wrong, I think Mariota's not a good quarterback, and I think if it comes to a point where Mariota's starting, things are going really wrong for the Raiders. But I think this is going to be a team that goes as far as Derek Carr takes them. And if you're getting rookie season, second season Derek Carr, when he takes the Raiders to 12-4, it can be they can be pretty solid. But if it's going to be the last few years, Derek Carr, it's not going to be as good. So I think it says more about the Raiders, and I think the Raiders are a pretty solid team that's going to go as far as he takes them. So
I would agree with you. I think when you're talking like playoffs and stuff and making a playoff run, I agree with you talking about Derek Carr, but I don't think you can really ask much more from him. Like after with this game, if he goes out there and does 22 for 30, 250 yards, around there, whatever. You obviously have the back and Josh Jacobs to get you into the end zone once you do get into the red zone or within the 10-yard line. So I mean, I think this is a good game for Derek Carr.
I
This is
agree.
like
Yeah.
a step in the right direction. So yeah, but I would agree with you. This says more about the Raiders. Did not expect them to win either,
No,
and it's not like
yeah.
the Panthers are a team that is looked at as a bad team either.
Yeah.
I know I don't think that they're going to be great by any means, but this is a game that if it was played last year, you would say that the Panthers, would pull it out too,
Yeah.
and the Panthers seemingly got better with Teddy Bridgewater,
Yeah,
but
I agree.
they still lose a game like this. So
yeah, I think a lot of people had the Panthers in this one. Obviously, your money had the Panthers, and
my wallet had the Panthers.
Yeah, your wallet doesn't like you right now, probably after this week, from what it sounds like. But another one of the more surprising results from the week: the Jaguars take out the Colts 27-20, a team that's any player that's shown any kind of promise over the last 24 months, they have shipped out to the point of just cutting Leonard Fournette, who had himself a decent game with the Bucs over the weekend. But yeah, Gardner Minshew goes out there, throws 3 touchdowns, 19 for 20. I mean, that's pretty solid. Only 173 yards, but he did what he had to do to win the game. Phillip Rivers, two interceptions. I mean, as Chiefs fans, we see a lot of Phillip Rivers, and we know that's what he does. He throws picks in crunch time. He doesn't get the job done when it comes time to get the job done. And oh God, I really don't know as far as who this game says more about. I don't think the Jaguars. I don't think this game definitely doesn't represent the talent of these two teams. The Colts are obviously a better team, but Jaguars came out and did it.
Yeah, I would say this says more about the Colts, and I think I say that just because of kind of the hype that they had. They were a decent team last year, and obviously when you get a veteran quarterback that I think we would agree that Philip Rivers is a gunslinger. It's not like he's a game manager by any means. He is when he's throwing picks all the fucking time, but um, I think it says more about them just because of the hype that was put on them. I think they were kind of rooted as maybe that third team in the AFC that could just kind of hold it down throughout the season, beat the teams that they need to beat, and then hopefully, squeak a few wins in there against kind of the top tier teams. And, they come out here and play like you said, one of the most just in the dirt teams when it comes to just being
Yeah.
stripped. Maybe they made enough money off the Gardner Minshew jerseys last year and are continuing to make money off those jerseys that maybe they said, fuck it, who cares? But
Right.
yeah, Gardner Minshew had a day, and I think Gardner Minshew was kind of like a Derek Carr, like how I felt about Derek Carr was like, you don't expect Gardner Minshew to go out there and throw for 350 yards. You just expect him to win you games, and he went out there and did it. So,
Yeah.
and
And
without really much presence on the ground. I mean,
right.
James Robinson was a guy that was thrown in there after the
Yeah, to lose
Fournette
your
deal,
starting
and
running back. Yeah, a guy who, I mean, you expect to be a big part of your offense that close to the season. I mean, and as far as talent, I mean, you go to receiving. Who do they have? Keelan Cole. I couldn't even fucking tell you the other guy's name. Laviska. I mean, when you're throwing to guys like that, I mean, props to him for coming out and getting that win and doing what he did. Because I couldn't have named a single fucking offensive player on the Jaguars other than Minshew.
DJ Chark did have a really
Okay,
good
yeah,
breakout season last year, and he had a decent game. He had a few like really big impactful catches in that
yeah, that
game. Dede
touchdown, yeah.
Westbrook is another name, wide receiver, which I don't think he played. I think he was hurt or was showing issues with something, so they didn't throw him in there. But yeah, it's a good win for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I think it gives them a lot of hope and everything else for that organization and that fan base. But definitely says more about the Colts that
Yeah.
this is just a game that you can't lose.
Little more faith in Gardner Minshew. I mean, he was a guy who, he came out there and Foles obviously the whole thing with him and Foles last year. I mean, he got benched for Foles once Foles was healthy again. He was struggling at points last year, and you can chalk that up to talent around him or whatever you want to chalk it up to. But I mean, Gardner Minshew was a guy who the Jaguars are clearly putting a lot of stock in him, but I feel like he wasn't completely proven. And this takes a step towards showing Jaguars fans and showing his coaches that he's a guy who can be a starting quarterback and be a guy you can build that team around. So hopefully he continues because he's a fun guy to watch. Obviously, the mustache and his road trips and shit in that little van or whatever the hell he lives in. I mean, he's a pretty cool dude. He's a fun guy to watch. So hopefully he continues to have success. Ravens Browns. Ravens take it to Cleveland. I know you picked Cleveland to win. No, I'm just playing. Ravens 38, Browns, yeah, right. Baker 21 for 39, 189 yards, touchdown and a pick. I mean, not looking super great out there. Jackson obviously 20 for 25, 3 touchdowns. Robert Griffin got himself a pass in there too. I love Robert Griffin. I miss that guy.
Yeah, this dude, I'm not even trolling here. Baker Mayfield may be the worst quarterback in the league.
I mean, my favorite comparison I've seen on Twitter, Baker Mayfield is just a sober Johnny Manziel.
Oh my God, he's just terrible. I mean, I saw a lot of clips from this game, and God, he's just so bad with all the weapons that he has. And
Yeah.
this is something that we don't know as a fan if this is a coaching issue or they're not designing plays for guys like Landry and the pickup of Austin Hooper and Odell. But God, it is a bad, bad, bad football team, and he is a bad quarterback.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to come to Cleveland's defense here a little bit. I think this game says more about the Ravens. I think the Ravens are right there behind the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are a better team, but I mean the Ravens are another team like the Chiefs who they went 14-2 last year. I don't think they were as good as a 14-2 team, but I think they got better in the offseason as far as improving that roster, and that's going to be a team that it's got to be Chiefs Ravens in the AFC Championship this year. I don't see it going any other way, but I think it says more about the Ravens. I think the Browns are going to be better this year than they were last year. I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs, but I think they're a team that's definitely going to win some games. So just the Ravens, though, I mean, to have that continuity like they do and have a guy like Lamar Jackson, like all the guys that they have, I think the Ravens just went out there and kind of did what the Chiefs did. I mean, they didn't obviously give up any touchdowns towards the end, but they just went out there and showed, I mean, hey, we're still top 2 team in the AFC. You're going to have to go through us. And I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with this year. So I think the Browns are better than what they showed out there, but this game says more about the Ravens. I think they're solid.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think it says more about the Browns just because it's the Browns and they're a fun team to talk about.
Yeah, they're entertaining for sure. Fucking soap opera out there.
I mean, I think if this is a game against the Jets, I wouldn't be saying that this says more about the Jets, but there's always that hope for Cleveland, and especially with the roster that they've built, there's always just a lot of hype and there's a lot of talk, and et cetera, et cetera. You got the name in Baker Mayfield behind you, and
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, as far as the next game, the Chargers eke out a win over the Bengals, and I mean it should have went to overtime. Obviously, the Bengals. I guess let me ask you: did the Bengals kicker actually get hurt, or was he just embarrassed for shanking that kick? Because I think he was just embarrassed. He's like, you know how like defensive players get burned and then they like drop and act like they're hurt. I feel like that's the situation there. He shanked that shit. He lost the game, and then he had to. He knew he was getting cut anyway, so he's like, my hammy.
Feels bad. Feels bad. Joe Burrow, it sucks for him. They should have won this actually. AJ Green caught that
The
pass
push off. Yep.
in the corner and had had the push off, which I don't know if I like the call or not, especially
It's
coming
real
down to the wire
ticky-tack,
like
but
that.
can't review it
But
this year.
yeah, I can't review it, nor should you, I
And
guess.
I was going to say, I mean, and you saw Alberto Riveron last year. It's not getting overturned anyways. He said, "Fuck you!" Like, don't. Yeah,
exactly.
You challenge a PI, you're just wasting a timeout. But Joe Burrow, I mean, when you look at the stats right here, 23 for 36, 193 yards, no touchdowns and a pick. He did have the rushing touchdown, but the stats don't make it look like he had a great game, but I think he had some good plays and he had some good moments. And I watched a breakdown of his last drive. I mean, he let him down there, down to the 15-yard line and set him up for that game-time field goal. I think he showed a lot of promise and a lot of poise and a lot of skills that as the Bengals continue to build that team and as he continues to grow and mature and get more time on the field, I think Joe Burrow is going to be a really good quarterback. So stats may not have shown it in this one, but I think Joe Burrow had a great showing, and it's nice to see a rookie out there. I'm waiting on Tua, and like I said, I know that I know the Dolphins are better off not starting him this year, but I love the rookie QBs. I want to see him.
Yeah, I do think that he looked good. The only thing I guess his downfall is that he was still kind of stuck in that college football mentality where he thought he could outrun or maybe take a hit,
Yeah.
and not get taken down. Maybe I think he just thought he had a few extra seconds back in the pocket because he did have the 3 sacks on him, and they were just balls that if you got a veteran quarterback back there, they would have just thrown it away, and you don't lose those yards. But I think honestly, I don't know what this says more about either of these teams, but I will say I don't think either of these teams are teams that you got to worry about in the AFC. And I think that was just kind of proven with this game. Tyrod Taylor didn't really show anything to me that would prove that he's going to be anything better than what he was in that game, especially when you got Eckler and Joshua Kelly had a decent performance as well. So when you have the rushing yards, I think you just expect that Tyrod Taylor maybe just have a better day, and he still didn't. So, yeah, I don't really know who this says. I guess I'll give it to the Bengals that it says more on just because Joe Burrow looked like a future quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah. I think I agree. I mean, I agree with you, I guess, because I was going to say I don't really care, and this doesn't mean anything to either team because they're two last place teams. So I agree. It says more about the Bengals because I agree. I think Joe Burrow definitely showed some moments, and I think he showed in that game that whether the stats show it or not, he's going to be a guy who he's gonna have success in the league, and he's going to be fun to watch. So it's good to see him out there. Yeah, I'm still pissed though. I was watching that, and the fucking Bengals kicker, man. Guess it wasn't the worst kicking performance of the week. Gotskowski, which we'll get to. Good God. As far as exciting games though, here was the other one. Bucks Saints. Saints end up winning.
Game of the week.
Yeah, 34-23. Unfortunately, I missed the end of this game. I was tapped out from the bar. I went home and passed out. Bucks were down like 7 whenever I went to sleep, and I mean, they were down the whole game, and Tom Brady didn't have the best game either. And yeah, it was all Saints. I think the Saints are clearly a better team in this division. I think it says more about the Saints that the Saints are, again, a third team that I'm saying is definitely a Super Bowl contender, definitely one of the top teams in the NFL, and I think this is the Saints division for sure. The Bucks are there. The Bucks will be a wild card team, but definitely
it's crazy. It's crazy because the Saints didn't really even have a good game, even though you look at the score, it's 34-23, and you're like, okay, seems like they had it the whole time, but Drew Brees did not have a good game. They just kind of squeaked out a win. They had the pick 6, which obviously helped out a lot and kind of, gave them the boost to win the game 34-23 and not 27-23 like the stats show. And I believe Tom Brady scored a garbage time touchdown kind of at the end of the game as well.
Really?
So Yeah, I don't know that I saw Bruce Arians came out and said that kind of like took a shot and was like, in practice, Tom Brady looked like Tom Brady, and then he went out there and just really didn't follow the game plan, I guess, was kind of what he was saying. A lot of, I guess, Brett Favre had some issues with it, and I was listening to that earlier
Really?
today. But yeah, I'm not down on Tampa Bay for this game. Like, I still think that they're going to be a playoff team. Like you said, they playing against the Saints, who arguably were the best team in the NFC last year. But yeah, I don't know. It's weird because I feel like we should have a lot to say about this game, but overall, like it was a decent game. New Orleans just hopped out front, and Brady just really couldn't do anything. He had those two picks, and those two picks, I think, really just changed this game.
Absolutely. Like I said, I mean, it's I think it says more about the Saints, but like I don't think it really changes my opinion of either of these two teams. I called it in our podcast pre-week one. You know, I think the Saints are going to win this division. I think they are the better team. Obviously, they're both playoff teams, but you know, week one, the Saints continuity and for Brady to come in and a lot. I mean, there's so many new guys on that Bucks team. There's a lot of talent. Don't get me wrong. It's just going to take them some time to gel. So I don't read too much into it. As far as the Brady performance, maybe a little bit of a you know, I think this is the same Brady we've seen for the last year. You know, the Patriots won a lot of those games on defense and the easiest schedule in league history last year. I mean, the Tom Brady really hasn't looked great since. I mean, really, even before the Chiefs game. I mean, Tom Brady didn't win that AFC Championship game against the Chiefs 2 years ago. D Ford won the game for the Patriots, first of all. But I mean, he didn't look great in that game even back then. You know, so I think I'm not saying Tom Brady's washed. I think Philip Rivers is washed, if anyone's washed. Tom Brady's not washed. He's still a good quarterback, but it's something that it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, as far as is he going to turn it around? I want to see some good games out of him, and we're going to. I mean, Tom Brady's not going to have 16
Yeah.
terrible games, but I think it's definitely becoming more common to see games like these out of Tom Brady, and it's going to be interesting to see. I think
To his credit, I will fall in the category of, man, it's just hard. Like, you switch teams, you switch head coaches,
right.
especially, I don't like believe in that too much, but when you come from Bill Belichick tree, Bill Belichick, and then you come to a non-Bill Belichick team, it's just everything's different. You got
Yeah.
all these weapons, everybody's thinking that you're gonna be great, and COVID happens, you don't get as much practice in
Well, that's something.
preseason
Yeah, a
as
team like the
you
Bucks that
wanted,
kills
and
them.
right. And I think the biggest question mark was like, what is Gronkowski doing on that team? I mean, he was barely on the fucking field. He had two catches, and it was just like a I don't know. I don't know if maybe that's what Bruce Arians was talking about when they were saying that that Brady kind of went against what they were doing and what they were kind of game planning for. I don't know what's going on, but yeah, I still think that they'll be fine. Not saying that they're going to be like a Super Bowl contender or anything like that, but just with that extra wild card, I think like Tampa Bay kind of falls in that category of
Yeah, I
that.
agree.
That's the goal, you know.
Yeah. As far as fantasy, I know I'm not in any leagues this year, but as far as fantasy pickups go, we already know who's that little white wide receiver, the little white dude that Brady was throwing to. There's always one, and we found him on the Bucks. I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but
I don't
he's
remember his
there.
name either.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll know his name more throughout the season. But another surprising result: Arizona Cardinals 24, San Francisco 20. This is a really big one. Do you think this says more about the Niners or the Cardinals?
I think it says more about the Niners. They looked like one of the worst teams in the league. I mean, they actually,
Ooh,
I'll take that back.
ooh,
They looked just like a bottom tier team, the lowest tier that you could put in the fucking National Football League they were in.
man,
Fucking defense. I mean, I just don't understand. Like, how do you go? What did they go? 13-3, 14-2 last year, make
13
it to the
3.
Super Bowl, literally are arguably 1 to 2 plays away from winning that game or putting in
Right.
overtime or whatever. They were winning the whole game pretty much. Like, I just don't understand how you go out there and lose against the Cardinals. I mean, Kyler Murray, he's fast, and he's going to have rushing yards, but they did nothing to stop him. Like, it just seemed like every play he would just roll out and no one's there. All he's got to do is outrun these defensive linemen, which isn't fucking hard for even myself to do, I would assume. And
Right.
it just like, I just don't understand what they were doing. Their offense, I mean, no one's really putting anything. No one's really putting like too much on their offense to begin with, but their defense was a standout thing last season, and their defense looked fucking terrible.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Garoppolo, 19 for 33, obviously didn't have the greatest of days, but I mean, shit, you can't go out there and lose against the Cardinals. I know you're a lot higher. You're not like super high on them, but you're a lot higher on the Cardinals, I think, than I am personally. And I just don't. This game just made no sense to me. I'm obviously a little butthurt because I lost all my fucking
Another
money
one.
on them.
Another one.
Eh, but shout out to DeAndre Hopkins though. I mean, he's earned his fucking money. Had 151 yards, and Kyler Murray only threw for 230. So DeAndre Hopkins was getting open. But yeah, fuck the 49ers.
I disagree with you on this one. I think this game definitely says more about the Cardinals, and maybe it's just because I am that high on the Cardinals. But I mean, given DeAndre Hopkins, put him in that Arizona offense just to give that one weapon, that one just solid dominant receiver. I mean, God, DeAndre Hopkins, top 5 receiver in the league, 14 catches, 151 yards. I mean, he showed it in this game. You add Kyler Murray's running, like you said. I mean, 91 yards and a touchdown on 13 carries. He was the team's leading rusher. Kenyon Drake there still. Obviously, you did lose David Johnson, but I think that really gives the Cardinals another step. I don't think that they're better than the 49ers. I don't think they're winning this division, obviously, between San Fran and Seattle. I think Seattle's definitely the best team, and I think Seattle's going to win it this year, given these Week 1 results. But I like the Cardinals a lot, and I like Kyler Murray, and I think 26 for 40, obviously, 230 yards and a touchdown and the rushing touchdown, 85 QBR. It's a solid game, but I really like the Cardinals, and I don't think the 49ers have taken a huge step back. I don't think the 49ers were as good a team as they showed last year. I think Green Bay didn't show up at all in that NFC Championship game, or it should have been Chiefs-Packers last year. I just think that the Cardinals are a solid team, and I think they're on their way up. Whether, they're not a division-winning team this year, but they're a team that if they play like they played Week 1, they could definitely make the playoffs, and I'm excited to watch them. A lot of young talent. Kyler Murray's a really exciting guy, so I think this says more about Arizona than it does San Fran, just because I think Arizona's a team on the come-up.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you. I think Kyler Murray, though, I think he comes down to the organization. Like, he's kind of an organization quarterback that has a ceiling that we've yet to see. Comes down to I say that just because it comes down to the organization drafting well, and putting the pieces around him, which it seems like they've done a pretty good job at so far. But yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I still don't see the Cardinals winning more than 6 games this year. But
yeah, I think they've got a little more than that in them. I think they're a 7-8 win team, but I don't know. I feel like I'm high on a lot of teams. I mean, every team can't fucking win 8 games, so we'll see. I'll be wrong on some, but
I mean, to their credit, they looked better than the Colts, the Titans. They look better than a lot of these teams that are kind of, bunched in the middle that, plan on making it to the playoffs this year. Right. I think they look better than them Week 1.
My favorite result of Week 1, Sunday Night Football, Rams 20, Cowboys 17. I'm not high on the Rams at all, but I can't stand the Cowboys. I can't stand the fact that everybody has to talk about them because there's so many goddamn bandwagon fans around the nation. I can't stand. I don't hate Dak Prescott, I guess. I hate Jerry Jones. I hate everything about the Cowboys, and all these people picking the Cowboys to go to the Super Bowl, and there's people picking the Cowboys over the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, shit like that. This is what I like to see. The Cowboys go out there and lose. They do what the Cowboys do. They don't show up when it counts. And, we undeniable. In God's name. Sorry, I got an ad coming up. But, yeah, the Cowboys, they're not good. They're not as good as everyone thinks they are. They're not going to the Super Bowl. I think they'll win the NFC East just because the Eagles and the way that division is, but... Yeah, it's always nice to see the Cowboys lose.
15% credit on car and motorcycle policy.
Yeah, I'm a little butthurt about this game. This is what happens when you lose the 3:00 games and you're down a lot of money. You say, "Fuck it, I'll bet on the Rams." Cowboys,
oh no! Did you try to make your money back on that shit?
Yeah, I tried to pick up some fucking garbage money to make a little bit back, and yeah, Cowboys just did not look good at all, and not really too much to say. I think the Rams are better than they were last year. Seemed like Jared Goff kind of was more in his pocket, seemed a little bit more comfortable out there. I was surprised about Malcolm Brown getting more carries than Cam Akers. I thought Cam Akers was going to be the guy. I think that was kind of like the consensus coming out of the offseason. And I also lost a bet on him. I bet that Cam Akers would have over 40 yards, and he had 39. So not too happy about this game. Don't really have much to say about it. Fuck the 49ers and fuck the Dallas Cowboys.
I feel you on those two for sure. I agree with that. As far as the Monday night doubleheader, the first game was Steelers-Giants. Steelers take that one 26-16. I think this game says more about the Giants solely for the fact that I think the Steelers are who I thought they were. I think they're going to be a solid team. Ben Roethlisberger comes back and throws 3 touchdowns, 229 yards. He looks solid. He outrushed Saquon Barkley. That's my reason for saying the Giants. I mean, Daniel Jones, I don't know. I mean, he's still, I feel like, kind of to be decided as far as what he's going to do. Saquon Barkley, I mean, it's just going to be an issue where when teams know that your entire offense is built around this one running back, they're going to stack the box. They're going to put 8 in the box, and they're going to shut him down. I mean, 15 carries, 6 yards. I mean, that's and when you look, his longest rush was 7 yards. So that means all the rest of those were stuffs. They were lossable and lost it to. I think the Giants are in the same situation as the Jets. Poor New York fans, but Giants are not good, and they don't seem to be really getting better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I would completely disagree with you on this one. I think this says more about the Steelers. They came out here, get a win, Ben Roethlisberger back. I mean, this is a team that was number 2 in the AFC, number 3 in the AFC for a long, long time, and seems like they're back. So I agree with you. They played a shitty New York Giants team, but I mean, to stop Saquon like they did, I mean that front line was getting up in his face. Like you said, there was a bunch of plays that were just loss of yards for him.
Yeah.
I'm putting this on the Steelers just because they went out there and got a win. And it's not like this game was like a blowout by any means either. It was pretty close going into the second half, no score third quarter. And, you know, you end up pulling it away in the fourth quarter, scoring 10. They only scored 6. So, yeah, that's what I'll go. I think the Steelers are back, and I think they kind of reserved their top spot in the AFC with this game.
I agree. Like I said, I feel like we agree on everything except for who we think it means more to. Like I said, I mean, I think the Steelers were that team going in, and
I guess to go against you, I just don't like. I don't think anybody really expected the Giants to take like a massive leap. So like to me, like I'm not really expecting the Giants to make the playoffs this year. I'm not really expecting them to really be close. So I guess that's why I think it says more about the Steelers. If it was a different if it was a different NFC team that was maybe a little bit better, then I think I would agree with you. But I just don't, you know, I didn't expect New York to come out here and beat on good teams by any means.
I agree. Yeah, you're right looking at that. I guess maybe from just more of a Giants fan perspective. I mean, every team's fans wants their team to progress and get better. Not to say the Giants were supposed to contend or anything, but one sec, Jalen, you remember Jalen from Old Jose's, right? He said, "Tell Alec what's up," and he said, "Broncos bouncing back, 12-4." So we'll get. I guess the Broncos is the next game we're about to talk about. But what's up, Jalen? How you doing, man? Good to see you.
What's up, Jalen? Long time no talk.
I know. I fucking love Jalen, man. He's dope. I miss him.
Well, we're talking about the Broncos now. So
I know. Timing. Yeah, perfect timing. Let's get over to that game. Broncos, unfortunately. Unfortunately, lose 16-14 last night, despite 4 missed field goals from Steven Gostkowski. Tannehill, Derrick Henry, they didn't look too good. I mean, that Broncos defense, I think, is still a solid defense, and I don't know. The Tennessee, as much money as they sank into Tannehill and Henry, they've got to get more production out of them if they're going to win more games than just squeaking by the Broncos.
Yeah, I think it was a good win, like how they won. Obviously, everything, you know, the way that they played and everything wasn't the strongest and it wasn't the best. But for them to kind of like you said, kind of like squeak out this win, it was good just to see them get the win, obviously. Broncos, man, it's rough. Drew Lock did not look great at all. Jerry Jeudy, though, I think is the one positive you take out of this game.
Yeah,
I think
4 catches, 56 yards.
I think when these wide receivers get picked up in the NFL for being fat, and I know Jerry Jeudy was much better wide receiver than just being a fast wide receiver in college, but I think they kind of lose their step once they get into the game. They kind of stop a little bit. Maybe they'll run their routes as fast as they can, but when they catch the ball, there's a little bit of a hesitation there, and you don't really see that full speed. But man, they couldn't stop him there for a second. He had a few drives where it was just like keep giving him the ball. But yeah, this sucks for the Broncos. I mean, especially for like a fan base. Like this is a game that you want to go out and win, and especially with the Titans. Derrick Henry still had 100 yards, but he rushed the ball 31 times. Like you're going to get 100 yards, hopefully, if you run the ball that many times.
Right. Yeah, 31 carries. Goddamn.
I also bet on this game. Put all my money on the Titans and was fucking sweating bullets the whole game.
Did you bet on them straight up, or did you was there a spread?
Nah, bet on them straight up.
Okay, that's good.
Also, to make this game even more sweaty for your boy, I was up 13 points in my fantasy league. The guy that I was playing had Tennessee defense and AJ Brown.
Yeah.
I ended up winning by like 3 points or something. And if you watch the game, Tannehill had AJ Brown one-on-one. I think AJ Brown was lined up. I even said to my roommate, I was like, AJ Brown is lined up next to the tight end. I was like, they were on like the 2-yard line or something. And I was like, he's lined up next to the tight end. He's going to be one-on-one. He's just going to do an out route. And I guarantee you they throw it to him. Of course, exactly what I said happened. And Tannehill just barely overthrew him. He was wide open too, making me sweat a little bit more. But yeah, it squeaked out the win on this one. I think this says more about the Broncos to me. Do you agree?
I agree with you for sure. I mean, the Titans obviously coming off an AFC Championship game appearance. I think they've got a solid team, solid defense and stuff. Drew Lock, like you said, didn't have the best game, but not terrible either. I mean, 216 yards and a touchdown. Melvin Gordon, 78 yards, also with a touchdown for him as well. I mean, the Broncos, between him and Phillip Lindsay, that's a solid addition for them. And to hang with him like that, I mean, it's a game, unfortunately, that I think the Titans should have won that game. I think the Titans are a better team, but I think that just shows how far the Broncos have come. At least from the beginning of last year, they did finish strong, but I mean, this team is a totally different team. It's a totally different tier team with Drew Lock as their starting quarterback compared to, what they were doing with Joe Flacco. I mean, if they start Joe Flacco all last year, they're going 3-13. So for them to do that, I think Drew Lock has a bright future, and maybe I'm just a homer, obviously us coming out of Lee Summit, and nice to see a hometown guy make it in the NFL, especially as a QB. I mean, that's rare, but I was high on the Broncos going into the season. I think the Broncos have potential to be a wild card team. This maybe took my prediction for them as far as from maybe like 10-6 to more of like an 8-8, 7-9 team, but they're solid, and as solid as that defense is, they're going to be a team. And for the Broncos, it's another situation. Whereas you're in a division with a team at the top of it like the Chiefs that's so strong. You just gotta try and make a wild card.
I mean, losing Von Miller, arguably one of the best top 10, players in the NFL, arguably, that obviously kills him. I think I guess I say it says more about the Broncos just because. Broncos fans, everybody's kind of on this high of like, okay, we got this young talent, and Drew Lock, pulled out a few wins at the end of the season. He's a guy that can do it. And he was just a guy that didn't do it.
Right.
He literally didn't do it. Like they had every opportunity to win this game, and, he just couldn't put it together. And maybe I'm thinking too heavily that this is Drew Lock's team already and everything else, but that's just where I am. This is a game that they shouldn't have lost, especially when you talk about all the missed field goals and everything like that. These are just games at the end of the day that if you want to be a playoff team, obviously they still have potential to do that. But these are the games you have to win.
Right. Especially when we talk about Gostkowski missing, 3 field goals and an extra point. I mean, Tennessee left so many points on the board. You got to take advantage of that when you're Denver. You can't, that's 10 points on the board. And that's also points where, when you're stalling drives and forcing field goals, you gotta take advantage of that. On top of the fact that you're keeping them out of the end zone, they're missing the field goals. I mean, they got to put more points on the board at the end of the day. And Drew Lock's still a young guy. He's got 6 starts under his belt now, so he'll get it together. And I think the Broncos are a solid team. They got some talent as well, and it's gonna be I don't know. I think Tennessee's still a better team, and Tennessee's still going to be a playoff team. I think Tennessee wins the South. But like you said, I mean, as far as Von Miller, some pretty big injuries in week one. I know Von Miller was pre-week one, but he was placed on the IR today with that dislocated tendon in his ankle. It sounds like he's going to miss a vast majority of the season. IR rule's a little different this year. You only have to be on the IR for 3 weeks and he can come back, but it's clearly going to be longer than a 3-week injury. It'll be interesting to see whether he does come back, whether the Broncos are even in a position where it's worth it for him to come back. You know, if they're in a spot where they're not making the playoffs, it's probably better to just sit him and let him be done. But
Shit, they showed a picture of him on the couch, and it does not look like that man's coming back. But maybe.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I think I like the Broncos. I like their talent, but I think the Broncos aren't going to be a spot where they're going to need him. You know, there's no point in rushing him back out there for a 7-9 team, 6-10 team. But yeah, Von Miller probably the biggest notable injury, but another big one was Marlon Mack for the Colts. He tore his Achilles in week one. He's going to be done for the season. Marlon Mack, a guy who I had on my fantasy team last year, a pretty solid pickup coming in after the Andrew Luck retirement, and he really performed. He did really well. He was a late round pickup for me and did well, and he's a guy who the Colts offense really could have used, and it's going to make it that much more difficult on old Phillip to perform. Now he's got.
Naeem Hines didn't have a bad game, so they might not be in a. I know Marlon Mack kind of last year was kind of like his little bit of a breakout season for him, especially with a young guy being like him. But didn't seem like they struggled that much. But yeah, it is a huge loss, and that sucks. Week one, especially with the torn Achilles, that's something that it's just like tearing an ACL. That's something that you don't. It's not a fast, speedy recovery. Right. It's something that you have to take super seriously, and especially like a game like football is. Like it's just not an injury that you want to see any athlete having, but especially
I agree.
Like, in the NFL.
Another big injury. Blake Jarwin tore his ACL, Cowboys tight end. I think he's a guy who, as far as what I read, he seemed like he was going to be a guy who got some touches, got some production for the Cowboys. So that's one less weapon for Dak and company to have on the field. But they still got weapons between Zeke and Amari Cooper, stuff like that. But always sucks to have major injuries like that in the first game. Cowboys linebacker also Van Der Esch broke his collarbone, so that's going to be another longer injury. I kind of lumped him in with what I wanted to talk about, I guess, these smaller injuries. There's some major ones, but, Le'Veon Bell, George Kittle, Michael Thomas, Devontae Parker, a lot of these skill position guys, wide receivers, a lot of them are like hamstring injuries, pulled muscles, stuff like that. Do you credit that more to lack of training camp, lack of preseason? Do you think that has something to do with it? Or, do you think it's just kind of, obviously the NFL, we see injuries every year. Do you think it's more because of that, or just kind of it's the NFL, it's physical?
So I was actually going to bring up the same point. It's like I kind of hate that. I hate that argument, but it does seem like a valid one, especially just COVID. Everything that's happened. Obviously with COVID, these guys aren't going to the gym. They aren't working out with each other. They're not working out with their trainers.
Not working out with their trainers. I think that's the big thing.
Right. Like there's all these things that kind of factor into it. I would like to see this in comparison to like last year after week one, just to see like the notable names. But yeah, I think it's a valid argument. Especially like you said, these are a lot of these guys like the George Kittle and the Le'Veon Bell, like and Michael Thomas, like they weren't like huge injuries, and hopefully they're not, but they were enough to take them out of the game. And I know Kittle like came back, I think, for a few plays, and then I think he was benched after that. But yeah, hopefully this isn't something that like moving forward you see these big names getting. But yeah, I guess we'll see. I really hope for fantasy purposes Kittle's back, but
yeah, I think it definitely has a little bit to do with it. I think I guess the reason I think that, you look back, what was it, like 2010, 2011, whenever that new CBA came out and there was the lockout and all that stuff going on, and the players were really pushing for less padded practices, less full contact practices and stuff like that in training camp. And during those years, you saw a lot of ACL injuries. You saw a lot of Achilles ACL injuries right at the beginning of the year. I think just maybe because of the different type of practices, the different type of scrimmages. So I think, and you brought up a good point as far as not training with trainers. You know, all these NFL players, obviously they work out every day. Obviously they do stuff, but you've also seen, I mean, Instagram videos and stuff like that of people doing some weird-ass workouts, some stupid workouts, some dangerous workouts, honestly. I mean, people just do shit because it looks cool and because it looks impressive, and it's honestly, like, not good for your body. So I think it definitely has something to do with it. And fortunately, you know, like I said, a lot of those guys down at the bottom of that list, Bell, Kittle, Thomas, they're small injuries, they're nagging injuries, stuff like that. So hopefully it's something as they get more work with their trainers now week to week basis that it doesn't continue and it doesn't hamper them throughout the season. But I think it definitely plays into it a little bit, not having those guys and not being around everybody as much for, you know what, it's, I mean, solid 6 weeks of training camp. You got your 4 weeks and then those games before it. So I agree, though, for fantasy purposes for everybody, hopefully it doesn't continue to happen, and hopefully guys stay healthy, because obviously the NFL is a better product when guys like this, I mean, this is a lot of stars in the league on this list just from week 1. So hopefully they get healthy, and hopefully we don't see more injuries for sure. But we've been live for a minute. I think we've gone over just about everything we need to go over. I guess my last question is really, you know, all the week 1 games you saw, you know, we talked about it pre-week 1 and who we think are the favorites, who we think are going to be ass. And were there any games in week 1? Were there any team performances that really changed your mind? Or I guess are there any teams that you really like changed your outlook on that team based on their play in week 1?
Maybe a long-ended version of that would be thought the Seahawks looked really good. They're definitely, I think, you know, no one was saying that they weren't going to be a playoff contender and a good playoff team, because obviously, like a guy with Russell Wilson, that's always there. I didn't think that performance was great, though. Other than that, Packers did well. Didn't expect them to lose that game either. Probably the biggest one for me, and this is regardless of the bet, was that 49ers game. Like,
Yeah.
I just don't understand how you go from, I mean, when you look at the power rankings last year too, like they were a team that was consistently like 1 or 2, you know,
Yeah.
they toppled the NFC all season last year, and you know, they just couldn't get it done. So that I think that's my pick, and I know maybe I am a little bit biased. That would be my pick of the week. That just kind of really changes my outlook on them. Now, can they still make the playoffs? Probably. And if they rattle off 4 wins in a row, would I be shocked? Probably not. But that's my pick.
I agree. I think as far as teams that I'm a little lower on, I would say the Niners, but a team that I guess same division. The team that I'm higher on than I expected to be is the Rams to beat the Cowboys. I know I hate the Cowboys and I was talking shit, but the Rams were a team that I thought were kind of on the downhill swing, and I think that to come out there and do that, I think they've still got talent on that roster, and hopefully Jared Goff has a bounce back season. And I think if Jared Goff does play well again, that's a team that can definitely go back to the playoffs and do big things. So the Rams, I think, are my team that I'll be watching for sure a little closer this year, and see if maybe they outperform my expectations for them. But
hell yeah, go Rams. I'm with you.
Hell yeah. All right, well, I got to piss like a racehorse, dude. I appreciate you coming on. We'll be back Saturday to talk about Thursday night and really preview week 2. Thanks, everybody, for stopping by. Thanks for watching. We'll be up on YouTube tomorrow. You got anything else?
That's all I got. I'm excited for Saturday. Look at next week.
Hell yeah, man. We'll get some tickets. Hopefully I'll get to a Chiefs game this year, too. Hopefully you had fun, man. Y'all, have a great night. Later.
All right, later.